Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So I think now that we're in the bye week, it is important to kind of take an overview approach to this organization, the team, the roster, etc. And that's what I'm going to aim to do this week on the channel. So these Commander Nightly News episodes are going to be kind of closely related to the Command Post episodes that will be somewhat adjacent to them. So you probably need to watch both. I know for some of you, I don't have to tell you that. If I put something out, you're going to check it out. But it is imperative that you watch both of these because they kind of go hand in hand. We'll be talking about a lot of things about this team as we sit here at 3-8 with a lot of things to discuss. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of fans want to make it out to be. We're just hurt. We're disappointed of how this season has gone. We felt like this was different, that everything was going to be different this year, and they just weren't because of injuries. But in talking about that, I always tell you guys, context matters. And so we have to look at everything from I think the right approach. And I can't tell you how to think. I can't tell you how to view things. I can only give you another vantage point. You can do with it whatever you like. You can toss it aside and say, I don't care about that shit you're talking about. This is how I feel. And that's how I'm going to continue to feel until they give me a reason not to. And that's fair as well. That's what fandom is all about. You get to decide how you feel, when you feel that way, and for how long you're going to feel that way, and what's going to change your mind. All I can do is offer you a different opinion, vantage point, and you do with it what you will. So today, I'm going to talk about what I think is the most important roster decisions post-bye. And I think there are a lot of things that this team has to assess moving forward. And, you know, I told you guys I was going to be depressed at multiple stops throughout the course of the rest of the NFL season. One of them was last Monday night when the Patriots were on. I knew Drake May was going to kill it against that Jets football team. He did. Or Thursday night, excuse me. He did. And, you know, it just reminded me of 2024 and where we were just a year ago. And yesterday was another one of those moments. It was brief, though. It wasn't like Thursday night when the Patriots were on. It was brief. But they showed my first look at like my first real examination. Like I saw it on Sunday Night Football. They put up the graphic of, you know, division leaders. We're at that point now. We're nearing Thanksgiving. So you're going to start to see the graphic of division leaders, wild card, and in the hunt. And Monday Night Football did their own version of that with division leaders, wild card, and sniffing around. And the one on Sunday Night Football, I was doing stuff, moving around when they put it up when the Eagles were playing. Even though it was a really good game and I was locked in, I was also on my phone checking my, you know, picks and, you know, just all over the place looking at different things. So I wasn't really locked in. I was locked in on Monday night for whatever reason. I was just sitting there because I really didn't have too much interest in my picks. I wasn't really like, oh, I think I can win this, that, and third. I was kind of just sitting there watching the game and just chilling. So I'm watching it and it pops up sniffing around with all the other, and they had teams with 4 wins in the sniffing around conversation. And I got in my feelings for just a brief second because I said, had we beaten the Dolphins, we would have been on the screen just now. And I know that shit doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We weren't going to do anything anyway this season, yada, yada, yada. We don't know if this DQ defense is actually better or if we just played a worse opponent. So we can't say that the defense is all of a sudden fixed. And if the offense gets it together, who knows what we could have done, because we can't fall into that trap. But all I know is that had we beaten the Miami Dolphins and gotten to 4-7, we would have been on that screen. And I don't know why that matters to me, but it did in that moment. And it's going to matter moving forward when I see teams that are 4-7 or 5-7, because we would have had a legitimate shot to beat Denver, I believe, coming off the bye. I know that sounds crazy to some of you. Denver's offense isn't very good. And I don't know how good our defense is. And I don't know who we're getting back post-bye. I just know they play a lot of close games. And the ball bounces your way. You make a play here, you make a play there. Who knows? Anyway, I digress. I'm going off on a tangent. I'm just sharing how I feel. You guys always give me an opportunity to vent and be an outlet for my bullshit, and I appreciate you for that. Anyway, I think there are some important decisions to make post-bye, and they center around the roster and its construction and what it should look like moving forward and what you should be thinking about doing or not doing. And we're going to talk about the offensive side of the football on the command post right after this show has met its conclusion. And I think one of the biggest things that they have to do after this bye week is they have to figure out, obviously, the most important and critical thing they have to do is stay healthy. Like, you can't have any serious injuries that linger into the offseason. But we've talked about that already. So move that aside, because that's like saying don't turn the football over every week. That's a given. We don't have to necessarily say that. It's unspoken and it's understood. However, you say it anyway because this team has turned the ball over and they haven't gotten any turnovers. But I'm going to say it anyway. We need to stay healthy. But move that aside. The most critical roster examination I think that needs to take place is you got to figure out if Deebo Samuel is worth bringing back next season. He's going to be 30 years old next season. I think this roster can use, and I'm going to talk more about this. I'm going to elaborate on the value of veterans on this roster moving forward, because I think you're going to see the Commanders transform from one of the oldest teams in the league to not the youngest, right? They're not going to make that transformation overnight, but I think you're going to see them move from literally the oldest team in the NFL at over 28 years old per average to somewhere middle of the pack towards the top 10 youngest this offseason. I do think that's actually going to transpire. But I do think it's important that you keep veterans on this roster, especially in the wide receiver group. And I'm going to elaborate on that, like I said, on the command post later on tonight. However, Deebo has played well this season, but we've also asked him to do some things that he shouldn't be asked to do. Deebo was not brought here to be a number one wide receiver. He was brought here to be a complementary piece. Cliff Kingsbury wants to stretch the football field. We've talked about spacing with him. Last year, that was one of the buzzwords, spacing. Cliff Kingsbury is like a NBA offense. He wants floor spacing, right? Give the shooters an opportunity to post up and get their shot off. Can't clog the paint for guys that want to get into the lane and create. You got to have spacing. Cliff does it on the football field. So he wants to create opportunities for guys horizontally, right? Which is what Deebo was brought here to do, and vertically, which is what Terry did, which is what Diami did last year. And we haven't really had that. Jalen Lane was supposed to fill some of that void, hasn't really done that this year. That said, I really want to see, and I think we all deserve as Commanders fans, we deserve to see, if you're going to bring back Jaden Daniels, which it feels like is going to happen. It doesn't feel like it's a matter of if anymore. It's a matter of when he's coming back. If you're going to bring Jaden Daniels back, I think we deserve to see what the pairing of Jaden, Deebo, and Terry looks like on an NFL football field. Like, really looks like. We had an extremely small sample size of that in week 1 versus the Giants. By week 2, that thing had disintegrated. Noah went down. Jaden went down. Eck went down, but specifically Jaden went down in that game. And by the time he got back, the shit was all in flux. Terry went down the next week. Then Jaden returned in week 5 or week 6 versus the Bears. But by the time, or week 5, excuse me, against the Chargers, right? And then he was out again by the time we got to week 7, right? Deebo was out in week 6 against the Cowboys, or excuse me, he was pretty much out against the Bears in week 6. He was out there in body, right? But his soul and his ability to actually impact the game wasn't there. So he missed the following week against the Cowboys in week 7. Then Jaden got hurt in that week 7 game. Then Terry shows up in week 8 against the Chiefs, only for Terry to get hurt in that game. Jaden returns in week 9, right? And we saw how the offense moved the football with relative ease against Kansas City in that week 8 game with both Terry and Debo on the field. And that was with Marcus Mariota. We just couldn't finish drives and we did stupid shit, but they were moving the football. Some of it I would blame on Cliff. Some of it I would blame Debo had a drop, right? That turned into an interception that killed the early momentum that we were building. But we were moving the football, especially in that first half. So, you know, I could keep going, right? You understand how this worked. You know, Terry gets hurt in that game. Jaden comes back the following week in week 9, and he gets hurt. And now here we are without Terry, without Jaden, and Debo's the lone soldier, which has been pretty much the case for much of the season. We haven't really seen what it's looked like. I think we deserve to see what it looks like. To be able to make a real decision on Debo being here. Does he complement Terry the way that we thought? Does it make sense to have 2 30-year-old receivers on your roster simultaneously? Debo's not going to take another 1-year deal, right? That he was on the final year of his contract. He's not taking a 1-year deal. He's going to want a multi-year contract. Are you willing to give that to him? I think he serves a purpose, and I think his game is going to age well enough, similar to Terry, that you can invest. How much, though? How much is too much? These are questions. And the only way to really find that out is to first find out if it even makes sense to run it back. Because we still don't actually know if those two actually play well off of one another. We still don't know. To me, that is the biggest question mark that this team has. Another one for me is Bill. We got to find out if Billiam is actually a number 1 running back in this league or not. To hell with all this C-Rod shit. To hell with, you know, it's good. Look, I like C-Rod just like the next fan likes C-Rod. Some of you are C-Rod stans. Bless your heart. He's a good football player, but he's not a number 1 running back in this league. We know that. What we don't know is if Bill is or not. Some of you have already come to a conclusion on Bill. I don't know how you can, at this point, feel like he's already decided not to be a number 1 running back. But if you have, so be it. I've already said that Josh Conley Jr. isn't going to be a Pro Bowl tackle. That's probably not fair for me to make that assessment, 11 games into his rookie season and NFL career. But that's how I feel after seeing some guys who immediately jumped on to the NFL scene. And even if they weren't elite early on, i.e. the Giants left tackle, Andrew Thomas. He didn't come in here and be dominant. He was getting his ass whooped, but he showed the ability. You knew if he ever figured it all out, put it all together, the ability is there. I haven't necessarily seen that with Josh Conley, but he's getting better. And maybe you feel the same way about Bill, and that's okay. But they need to find out, because the talent is definitely there. That's why I'm intrigued. If the talent wasn't there, I wouldn't be wasting my time. I would have done to him what I did to guys like Jarrett Patterson, where you guys tried to talk me to death about, hey, Jarrett Patterson can play. Bullshit. Jarrett Patterson is Jarrett Patterson. I think Bill can actually be a number 1 running back in this league. But if he's not, we need to know so we can address this offseason. We have to put a better group around Jaden Daniels this upcoming season. We have to. We started that process last offseason. The Laramie Tunsil trade was excellent. Mwah. A+ chef's kiss. I love the Debo trade. I'm not upset about that. He's played well. It sucks that we haven't been able to see what it was going to look like with everyone healthy, but he's done his thing. But I just want to see if it's worth running it back. Because in my mind, when we made the trade, this was a 1-year rental. 1 year. That's it. So those are 2 things that I'm really looking forward to the remainder of this season. Can we figure out what we have around Jaden? And is it like Debo is way more urgent than Bill, because Bill is under contract for another 3 seasons. You don't have to make an immediate decision on whether or not he's a starting running back. It just would help, because what we're going to talk about later on today, There are pending free agent running backs that I am interested in, that the team should be interested in, if you've already made the determination that Bill isn't that guy. He's more of a backup or a change of pace, etc., etc. Cool. But we just need to know going into free agency where we need to spend our resources, where we need to reallocate those resources to. Because you can't draft everything. You're not going to be able to draft everything. So that's where I am mentally. That's what I think is the most critical post-buy roster decision and thing that you have to see. If you're going to bring Jaden back, which it feels like is imminent, right? Feels like it's going to happen at this point, then you need to figure out if Deebo Samuel is a part of this team's future or not. And the only way to do that, I think, is to assess what he, Terry, and Jaden all on the field looks like together. And will it work moving forward? If it won't, then there's no reason to run it back. Anyway, let's get a word from our sponsor. We'll come back on the other side, and we're going to take a hard look at Adam Peters' first two drafts. And we got to be real about these first two drafts. I need you to move your biases aside. Get out of your feelings. Okay, yeah, we saw some shit this year that probably made you a little uneasy. I need you to remove your biases and let's just have a real conversation about these first two drafts. 14 players in total. Let's talk about it. We'll do that after this word from one of our sponsors.
Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper.
All right, so we're now in other news, and I think this is a real conversation that has really started to take on a life of its own due to the nature of this season. Context matters. I tell you this all the time. I think context matters more so with AP right now than anything else that you discuss with this organization. You cannot look at what AP has done through just the simple lens of, man, we suck right now. Our roster isn't good. We're old. And just kill him. Like, I get it, but you gotta also think about where we were last year and why he did the things that he's done. I've already talked to you about this ad nauseum, so I don't want to continue to beat that horse because it's long been dead. But ultimately, we were in a position to seize an opportunity coming off of a season in which we were 60 minutes away from the Super Bowl. They did what they thought was in the best interest of this team to push them forward and get over the hump. You're not going to do that with a bunch of young players. You're going to do that with veterans that have been there, done that. That's what they did this offseason. And doing that and going after a Laramie Tunsil and going after a Marshawn Lattimore and going after Deebo Samuel, you gave away very precious draft capital to chase after the goal of going to go get a Super Bowl championship, and it backfired. Shit happens. The one thing we can say that came out of that was Laramie Tunsil. Don't regret that trade at all. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. He's been everything we thought we were getting and then some. So really, really pleased with what we got there. But in doing that, you've given up precious draft capital, right? So let's assess the two drafts of Adam Peters thus far. And let's just look at these drafts and let's talk about these drafts and what they are or aren't and what they have been and what they need to be moving forward. So let's just talk about it from this lens really quickly. An NFL draft is deemed to be successful if you hit on 30% of the draft, okay? 30% of your draft class. Anything above 30% And you've done a hell of a job in that draft. Okay. Now, again, context matters. When you say 30% of a draft, you're going off of the mindset of you got 1 first-round pick, 1 second-round pick, 1 third-round pick, etc. Right through 7 rounds. You've got 7 guys. You got 1 in each round, which we know all drafts are not created equal. Okay, this draft was not created equal. We had a 1, we had 2 2s going in, and 3 3s. Right? We turned that into a 1, 3 2s, and 2 3s. Okay, so this draft class was supposed to be the building block, the foundation, and it still has a chance to be. But it took a hit this year, right? We went in thinking we got our linchpin on offense in Jaden Daniels, we got a linchpin on defense in Mikey Sainristil, and then we got a bunch of other guys that are going to fill in the blanks, right? Johnny Newton is going to be a solid defensive tackle. Brandon Coleman's a starting offensive lineman for us. We think Jordan McGee at some point is going to start for us at linebacker, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, you know, if nothing else, Luke McCaffrey is going to be a really good special teams player for us, but he's going to help at receiver, right? So this is where we were. So now 30% of a 9-player draft, if you can't do the math at home, you just need to hit on 3 of these guys. That's it. If 3 of these guys turn out to be really good players for you, starters, key cogs, and then 1 or 2 of the other guys turn out to be special teams contributors, etc., then you've had a really good draft class. It's a successful draft class. So looking at this draft class, Jaden Daniels, obviously, home run, slam dunk, yes. Mikey, next pick, Johnny Newton, 2nd round, 34th overall. We don't really know about Johnny Newton. I think a lot of us feel like Johnny isn't going to live up to the 2nd round hype. That's fair. I don't think he is either at this point. But as I've said to you many a times, everyone matures at a different rate. You can't just say because a guy in his first 2 seasons, especially the first one being fresh off of foot surgery, that, a guy isn't going to be this or he isn't going to be that. I've seen guys in year 3 of their NFL careers turn it on. The light bulb finally come on and you go, oh, shit. We've seen guys. Emmanuel Forbes is a great example. I don't know if you guys have been watching the Rams. I am watching the Rams. And I'm not watching because of Emmanuel Forbes. I'm watching because the Rams are one of the best teams in football. He just happens to be on the field for that team. Emmanuel Forbes is playing really good football. Okay? He's playing really good football right now. Just if you haven't been watching, he's playing really good. I'm not bullshitting you. Took him till year 3 to figure the shit out. But he figured the shit out. So all I'm saying is you just never know when the light bulb's going to come on. Right now, Johnny Newton doesn't seem like he's going to live up to the 2nd round hype. Can't say that he won't be a contributor on this team, but right now he's been underwhelming. Ben Sinnott or Mikey Sainristil is your next pick. I am a Mike Sainristil staunch supporter. This year has been very disappointing to say the least. He's still producing the football though. Still leads the team in interceptions this year. Could have had 2 or 3 more though, which is disappointing for a former wide receiver. He's been, terrible in man-to-man coverage. But again, this is still a new position for him. They didn't ask him to do the things that we were asking him to do this year, last year, or even the year before when he was in college. We're asking him to just straight up play man-to-man coverage against guys and thrive in that environment. And that's not what Mikey Sainristil is supposed to be doing on a down-in, down-out basis. However, I still think he's a really good football player. He's clearly a contributor that we're going to be relying on, and he's clearly a starter on this team, if nothing else. So at worst, he's going to be a starting, contributing football player for this team. Ben Sinnott, that's a big incomplete. We have no idea what Ben Sinnott is other than he can block at this point. We don't know if he can catch the football. We don't know if he can be a difference maker in the pass game. We don't know anything other than Ben Sinnott can block. That is it. So he's an enigma right now. Next pick is Brandon Coleman. He was brought in to be a starting offensive lineman. That's what AP literally told him when he was drafted. You're going to help us somewhere on this offensive line. They started out with him at left tackle. They realized we need to do better at left tackle. So they went out and traded for Laramie Tunzel. We thought he was going to get an opportunity to start at right tackle. They went out and drafted Josh Connolly Jr. I said, fine, that's perfect. Kick his ass inside. Kick his ass, Seabass. Kick him inside. He should be perfect at left guard, right next to Laramie Tunzel. This should be a godsend for him. This is where he belongs. And then they realized something. Something happened. They said, this shit ain't good enough. And they put Chris Paul in. Chris Paul's been fine this year. He's playing well as a former 7th-round pick. Great. But if Brandon Coleman is to make good on being a 3rd-round pick, he needs to be a starter, not a backup, not a jumbo package, extra tackle. He needs to start. And if he can't win the starting job next season, this is a failed bust of a pick. Period. End of discussion. So he's a disappointment right now. You move on to day number 3 of the draft in 2024, and you start with the first of the 2 5th-rounders. Remember, we did not have a 4th-round pick. So you go straight to the 5th round, and you start with Dominique Hampton. He's not even on the roster. Pack him up. They swung for the fences with an athletic guy that they thought they could make a conversion to a different position on, and they whiffed. Former college safety, turned linebacker, just didn't get it, moved on from him. Okay, it happens. 5th round, not tripping. Next guy up, Jordan McGee. Love him, love him, love him. Want more of him. This is a guy that is starting to get more and more opportunities. We've seen him flash a couple of nice tackles on Devin Achane in space on Sunday. He continues to show the speed and the athleticism that we lack on that side of the football. He feels like a key cog moving forward. I will go ahead and pencil him in as a guy that is going to be a part of this thing moving forward. That gives you your 3rd guy right now as it stands from this draft, right? If you take into consideration Jaden and Mikey Sainristil still, that's 3. That's your 30%, folks. That's your 30%. But we're going to keep going because we're not done. All right. I skipped over 3rd-round pick. Excuse me. I skipped over 3rd-round pick Luke McCaffrey after Brandon Coleman. So let's go back to day number 2. Luke McCaffrey taken in the 3rd round. I thought it was a reach then. I still think it was a reach now. Doesn't matter. He's here and he's family. But the big thing is with Luke is you just find ways to get him involved. They figured out a way to make him impactful while they were still trying to get him to learn. Remember, this is only his 3rd year as a wide receiver in his life. So in his rookie season, that was only his 2nd year playing the wide receiver position full time. So he was still learning, still getting better. And while he was figuring out the receiver position, they figured out a way to get him on the field on special teams as a return man. And while he may not ever break one for an actual touchdown, getting the football out to the 40-yard line just about every time he touches it, that's a skill onto itself and a big boost to a football team that if we ever get our offense back on track, if we ever get to see what this shit is supposed to look like, you give Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, et cetera, the football at the 40 pretty much every time they start or at midfield, because Luke was running the bitch to midfield or into plus territory just about every time. It was no less than the 40 most returns. You give that offense that we saw last year. Now, we need that offense to come back at some point. But when they hit the reset button, if you can tell me Luke McCaffrey is going to get the football to at least the 40-yard line, shit, I'll take that every time with Jaden Daniels in this offense. We can get them back on track. That's as good as forcing a turnover. You get the football. You know how many times Luke is running into the other team's territory, plus territory? So Luke has carved out a niche for himself. If nothing else, if he never becomes the receiver that a 3rd-round pick wide receiver is supposed to become, he can at least supplement that with his play on special teams. He feels like a guy that moving forward is a part of the solution, not the problem. Okay? So that's a 4th player out of this draft. Whether you think that these guys are big-time contributors or not is irrelevant. These are guys that are going to be contributors on this football team. And then lastly, Javonte John Baptiste in the 7th round. Jury's still out on him. 2 injury-plagued seasons in his first 2 years. He was just starting, I felt like, to really figure it out. That Falcons game was his best game, I think, as a pro, and then he ultimately gets hurt and is out for the season with a pec injury. We don't really know. Like, he's not a high-end rusher. But if he can be a productive, run-stuffing, every now and again, pressure inducing defensive end. Like if he could be a better version of Cleveland Farrell, why not? Right? That's a 7th round pick we're talking about. Like we didn't draft him in the 3rd round. We didn't draft him in the 2nd round. We drafted him in the 7th round. He could easily not be on the roster, but because of where our roster is, every single one of AP's draft picks are going to be here unless you just stink like Dominique Hampton did. So jury's still out on Javonte. That's an incomplete for him, just like it is for Ben Simmons at this point. But when you look at the draft, you've got 4 players that are key contributors moving forward in Jaden Daniels, Mikey Sainristil, Jordan McGee, and Luke McCaffrey. You can argue about the varying degrees of impact. That's fine, but these guys are on this roster and they're going to be on the football field and they're going to impact games on a weekly basis moving forward. That's almost half of this draft. And if somehow we can get Johnny Newton to play at the level he's supposed to, if we can ever figure out how to get Ben Simmons on the field in a capacity other than blocking, and if Javonte Jean-Baptiste can just stay healthy, and if they can figure out if Brandon Coleman this offseason, and this is a big offseason for Coleman, I've already said, if he can't win the job at left guard, like this is a wake-up call for him. He better bust his ass this offseason to set up a competition this upcoming summer that gives him a chance to be back on the field in the starting capacity. If he can't do that, then I'm already ruling him out of this draft. But Sinnott still has a chance to be impactful. Newton does as well. And we still got to see what the hell Javonte Jean-Baptiste can be. Almost half of this draft is going to be a contributor moving forward. It's not a wash of a draft. It could have been a better draft, but it's not a wash of a draft. Okay? If we're being honest about it. Then you move forward to this year's draft, right? Really still way too early to be even having conversations about this draft. But that's where we are. When you're 3-8, this is the type of shit that happens. All right? So 5 players. So not the type of draft, but this is what happens when you go for it. We went for it. We gave away draft capital to go for it. Context matters. So 5 picks only. Your 5 guys. 1st round pick, Josh Connolly Jr., tackle out of Oregon. 2nd round pick, Trey Amos, corner out of Ole Miss. 4th round pick, we did not have a 3rd round pick. Wide receiver Jalen Lane for the 2nd year in a row. I think we reached on a receiver in the middle of the draft, which is fine. He was supposed to serve a specific purpose, and because we've been so damn bad on defense, he hasn't gotten to show the thing that he showed us in week 3 versus the Raiders, which is he can be a difference maker on special teams as a punt returner. That's why he was brought here. 4th round, Jalen Lane, wide receiver, Virginia Tech. 6th round, linebacker, Kamadrano Ukla. And 7th round, running back, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill, running back, Arizona. So, 30%. Remember, you need to just hit on 30%. Being that this is a smaller group of players, 30% is very easy to obtain. You just got to hit on 2 of these guys. It's a small draft. Just hit on 2 of them. Can we already say that Josh Connolly Jr. is going to be a starting right tackle in this league? Whether you think the upside is through the roof or not, he's going to be our starting right tackle, and he's going to be more than serviceable. He's going to be way better than Andrew Wiley or any other right tackle we've put on the field since Morgan Moses. Period. Is that the standard for a 1st round pick? No. But he's going to be a contributing player. He's going to be a starter on this team. Period. That's 1. Trey Amos. Does anybody right now, no, it's a small sample size. I hate that he got injured, but does anybody think that this kid can't play at a high level in this league after seeing him in 10 games basically this season? Does anybody think that this guy isn't the best corner on the team right now? Again, a low bar, but let's remove that bar of him being the best corner on this team. Does anybody think he's not one of the better corners that we've seen on this team in quite some time? Okay, let's remove that bar. That's not a high bar either. Does anybody think he can't hang with some of the better corners in football? I can't speak for you. I feel like he can hang with some of the better corners in football. He may not be elite, but I think he's the next step down. He's really, really good. And he could get to elite status With more reps and more confidence, I think he could get to that level. That's 2 starters. 2 starters, 2 key contributors out of a 5-player draft. Jalen Lane, whether you love him, don't love him, you think he can't catch, he's got, cement blocks for hands, whatever. I think this kid can carve out a real niche for himself as an elite punt returner. An elite punt returner. If he turns into, and again, he doesn't seem like he has the same feel on kickoffs as he does for punt returns. I don't think they should give up on him on kickoff returns, honestly speaking, but it hasn't been good. But I think they need to continue to work with him, because if he's not going to be like what you need him to be as a receiver, he needs to then prove his worth as a return man on both kickoff and like if he's Kavontae Turpin, are you bitching about that? Because he could be Kavontae Turpin. Cowboys don't use him as an offensive weapon the way that they should anyway. If he's Kavontae Turpin, you bitching about that? I'm not. He's already shown you he can return a punt 90 yards for a touchdown. We hadn't had a punt return since like 2015 or 16 since Jamison Crowder did it. And that's on limited returns. He hasn't gotten nearly enough opportunities this season because of our stinking ass defense. He's already carved out a niche for himself. Whether you think he's going to be good as a receiver, and I actually think there's a lot of room for growth as a receiver, he can actually help us there too. He can actually help us there too. K. Madrano is an enigma, right? Incomplete. I told you he wasn't playing this year. So nothing has really changed for me. I didn't love the pick when they made it. I thought there were other things that we could have used at the time that, would have been better suited for this. But again, we don't know what he can and can't do. We knew this coming out of college. He couldn't tackle anyone, and he was a tremendous athlete. Those are the only 2 things that we knew. Former offensive side of the football player that we thought could convert over. This is the second time in the day 2 of a draft, late rounds, that we've tried to take a guy that's sort of a conversion type guy, and we hope that he works out for us. Didn't work with Dominique Hampton. It may not work with K. Madrano. It remains to be seen. We don't know. He's an eye right now. And then Bill. I think this guy is super talented and has all the goods to be a dynamic, elite NFL running back. I really think he can be DeAndre Swift. I see no reason why he can't be DeAndre Swift. He just has to play. This guy really hasn't played a ton of football the last 2 seasons. He hasn't played a lot this year. He didn't play at all really last year. He just needs to be out there, and they need to run plays that suit his skill set. Get him to the edge. They keep running him in between the tackles, and it's for naught. Our offensive line is not a dominant dick in the dirt offensive line is going to blow guys back and create a new line of scrimmage. So they're a finesse group, meaning they move very well. So you should be able to run to the perimeter. We saw it in the Chargers game. We saw it in the Giants game week 1. We saw it against the Dolphins on one play. Even if it was only one play, his best run in about 3 weeks, a perimeter run. Go figure. I'm not telling you can't run him in between the tackles, but I am saying until you figure out the best ways with this offensive line to run in between the tackles, you should be running Bill to the outside as much as you can. You can't run outside every time. I'm aware. But he shouldn't be getting 9 carries and only one of them is to the perimeter. And I think he can actually help you in the screen game as well, which we seem to not want to explore with any of our running backs, especially Bill. He's a part of this team moving forward. Another guy. So in a draft class that was only 5 players, I think you got 4 guys that are legitimate pieces moving forward in some capacity. So while you may not love these 2 drafts, we can't sit here and act like we didn't get any guys that aren't going to help us moving forward. The problem is right now with the mindset of the fan base, because of where we are sitting here at 3-8, older roster, the disappointment of not following up a 2024 campaign that got us all excited. We're being overly critical of every single thing. These draft classes aren't the reason that this team stinks. That's my message to you. You can say what you want about these draft classes. Maybe they didn't produce enough blue chip players. I agree with that. You're not wrong. But they produced a bunch of red chips. And the potential for a couple of blue chippers to come out of here is still available in Trey Amos. I believe, Mikey Sainristil and Jordan McGee have a shot with, Jordan McGee and Mikey, and even Bill to a lesser degree. It might be maybe a bit of a long shot, but the shot exists. The talent is there for all of those players. Is the only reason why I believe that those guys could potentially become blue chippers. You don't become blue chip players overnight unless you just hit the ground running as soon as you hit the NFL like Jaden did. It takes time. Trust me. Fred Warner didn't show up in the league and immediately become a blue chip player. Sometimes it takes a couple of years. Frankie Louvu came in the league, bounced around on a couple of different rosters till he figured it out. We'll see. But anyway, those are the draft picks of Adam Peters, all 14 of them. I just told you, in my estimation, of the 14, 8 of them, 4 in last year's draft, if we go back to that draft class, Jaden Daniels, Mikey Sainristil, Jordan McGee, and Luke McCaffrey are all key cogs moving forward that we know of. Jury's still out on Ben Sinnott, Brandon Coleman, and Javonte Jean-Baptiste. Johnny Newton as well. I don't want to, dismiss Johnny, although of all of the guys, he feels like the one that doesn't feel like it's ever going to materialize into what it was supposed to. And then Dominic Hampton's already been moved on from. And Javonte Jean-Baptiste will have a chance to continue to be a part of this roster once he gets healthy. But 4 guys have already shown, I believe, that the talent is there and that they're going to be a part of this thing moving forward. Jaden Daniels, Mikey Sainristil, Jordan McGee, and Luke McCaffrey. Ben Sinnott is also going to be a part of this, but in what capacity? Like, we got to stop with this blocking shit. Like, you take a tight end to block in the 5th round like you did John Bates. I think John Bates might have been a 4th round pick, 5th round pick. You take a guy like that, then you don't take a guy in the 2nd round and turn him into a blocking tight end. And then, so that's 4 guys. And then you got 4 guys out of this draft class. Josh Conley Jr., Trey Amos, Jalen Lane, and Bill. It's 8 guys out of 14. That's more than half. You just need to hit on 30%. Anyhow. So, just wanted to have a conversation about AP's first 2 drafts and where we are. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of nitpicking because of where we are. There's a lot of things you can be hypercritical of AP for. I don't think the drafts are one of them. I really don't. You can nitpick who he should have taken, what was on the board at the time of this selection. Did he overdraft Luke McCaffrey? Did he overdraft Jalen Lane? Those are real conversations, I think, that could be had, right? But to call those 2 draft classes garbage, I can't get on board with that. I can't get on board with that. So let's get to the comment section and then we'll get out of here real quick. Abner Duran, my guy, Ab. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Ab, writes, "Hey, Lou. What's up, Ab? I did my best. Last minute trip and all, but with the fumble and missed field goal and an interception, if they just don't want to win, I can't do much more. Nevertheless, I'll be there every time I can." You know what, Ab? This is not your fault. I didn't even know. You went undercover, bruh. I didn't even know you were there until after the fact. That's why it didn't work. You've never I told you, you're my best agent, bruh. I send you to a game and I know you're going to get the job done. You're like nobody, right? If I send you out on a case, I know you're going to get the job done and you're going to come back with the results that I need. So I didn't know. I wasn't on social media to see your post, to know that you were there. I didn't get on social media until like I want to say it was Monday, the day after the game, and I saw you were there. I said, oh, shit. No wonder that it didn't work. I didn't even know he was there. It's almost like you went undercover. Covert ops, and I wasn't in the loop of this covert op. It would have worked. It would have worked, man. So don't blame yourself for this. Blame me. I deserve the blame because I didn't know that there was an authorized op being executed. And so I wasn't privy to the information that I needed. I didn't properly brief you. Any of that. That's on me. That's not on you. That's on me. CGM87. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. CGM87 writes, Jacoby cut over more. Is Vinny back? Just stupidity. They don't think he can. Look, you talk about Jacoby Jones or Ja'Cory Brooks? What are we talking about? Did they make another roster move today? Because if they cut Jacoby Jones, I'm assuming that you're telling me that they just cut Jacoby Jones. They're trying to win. I keep trying to tell y'all this. Like, y'all don't seem to understand that they're trying to win. Now, like, DQ doesn't give a shit about next season. He's not thinking about 2026. He's thinking about 2025. How do I get a win? He thinks Chris Moore gives him the best chance to win. Right? The veteran does. In his mind, I can cut Jacoby Jones, put him on the practice squad. Get rid of River Craycraft, bring back Jacoby Jones, put him on the practice squad. Nobody's worried about, like, if I cut Chris Moore, somebody else might snatch him up. That's how he's thinking. He's not thinking like us. So he can't be upset. He's thinking, how do I find a way to win? We sit here and we laugh and joke about Chris Moore being ass, which he is. But in their mind, he offers more value than a rookie, an undrafted rookie does at this point. So, anyway, I digress. My Dixie Wrecked. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what's up, Lou? What's going on? First super chat. Welcome. He says, I hope we turn it around next year. I can't handle another year like this. It won't be like this next year. It won't be like this next year. Even if we don't perform at the level that we think we can, it won't be this bad because the excitement and the expectation were through the roof. It's not going to be that way next year. So even if it doesn't meet expectations, it won't be this bad. And I can't imagine, I can't say it won't happen, but I can't imagine that we will be this banged up 2 years in a row. I mean, if it does happen, you got me, hands up. This ain't got nothing to do with our strength and conditioning. These aren't soft tissue injuries we're talking about here. We got guys tearing pecs. We got dudes tearing ACLs. We got fractured fibulas. We got, broken ankles. We got, blown Achilles. We got all kinds of shit going on, man. Like, these aren't, oh, man, what is going on with our strength and conditioning staff? This ain't that. You know what I mean? Like, these are freak injuries where you go, what the F, bro? So none of us want to endure this again. This is not fun. This is not what fandom is supposed to be like. We thought this shit was over. So I demand that we play better next year, and we will. We will. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you the remainder of the week. Commanders Kings will be live tonight at 8:30 p.m. over on the Commanders Kings channel. We've got a lot to discuss. Meanwhile, I'm going to be live in like 5 minutes on this channel talking about the offensive side of the football as we will dive into our bye-week inventory for the Commanders roster, starting with the offensive side of the football. That's going to take place. Hopefully, you'll be able to join me. If not, it'll be there for you on playback. Either way, I look forward to chopping it up with you later. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30,